Kansas City was named the #1 place to work while offering the best options to explore the city. It has been voted the best place on earth to work remotely. National Geographic Travelers, best trips here in Kansas City. Among 28 must places to visit, KC was the only American city that made the list. There is a lot going on here in Kansas City, from Super Bowl champion, that's plural, champions, Kansas City Chiefs, to world-class museums and arts, the barbecue mecca of the world, NCAA big tournament host, NCAA basketball tournament host, NFL draft happening here in Kansas City, new KCI airport, just to name a few. However, there are also some drawbacks about living here in Kansas City that you should be aware of before you make that move. And in this video, we're going to tell you exactly why you should avoid moving to Kansas City unless you can handle these 10 facts. We're going to get after it right now. Hey everyone, welcome to Living in Kansas City channel. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything that it is to know about living actually right here in Kansas City and the surrounding areas, well, subscribe below, tap that bell for notifications so you'll be the first to learn about the lifestyle here in Kansas City and what it's really like living here in Kansas City, coming from an actual native Kansas Citian. I'm going to be letting you know the good, the bad, and yes, the ugly about living here in Kansas City. My name is Bilal, and I'm all about lifestyle right here in Kansas City. I'm going to tell you what it's like to work here, what it's like to eat here, what it's like to play here, sleep here, breathe here, and everything in between. And that also includes real estate right here in the city of Fountains, Kansas City, and the surrounding areas. I get calls, I get texts, I get DMs every single day from people just like you who are looking to relocate and make their move to Kansas City. I absolutely love it. So whether you're looking to move 10 days from now, 100 days from now, give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email, and I'll be happy to help you make that smooth move right here in Kansas City. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. Okay, so number one coming up on the list is Kansas City experienced severe weather. In a lot of times, especially in the springtime, Kansas City, the weather, you get severe thunderstorms, you get hail. I'm talking sometimes like those golf ball size hails that come just like randomly out of the sky, like nowhere. Like, where's it coming? Where's it coming? Where's it coming? Like you'll get that. I remember one time I traveled, went out of town, not thinking anything about looking at the weather or anything like that. I parked in the airport, and instead of parking in the garage like I should have, I parked in a parking lot at the airport. Came back home, didn't think anything about it. I came home late at night. That next morning, I noticed my car. Once I got out of town, I noticed my car. I had hail damage all on my roof, all on my hood. Like my whole car was filled with hail because Kansas City, again, if you don't have a garage, this may happen to you, right? Unfortunately, this happened to me when I went out of town. But I got hail damage on my car because of the hail. So you're going to get severe thunderstorms here. You're going to get hail that happens sometimes. So it may happen on your roof, things like that. And also tornadoes. You know, you're going to get severe weather in Kansas City. So I remember growing up as well, too. You know, being in school, we had these tornado drills, what to do when a tornado comes. And, you know, like, I don't still to this day, like, when I see the weather starts to change and the clouds start to kind of maneuver, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm going to be in a basement, you know, until all goes well. You know, we get these monthly checks sometime that goes off around the city, these tornado alarm, so to make sure that they're testing the system to make sure that everything is going right. So if and we should ever need it, that they know that everything's been checked. So that is one of the number one things. Definitely when it comes to the weather, we get severe weather storms that happen right here in Kansas City. Number two on the list, Kansas City. This is not, unfortunately, is not one of the things that I really like to talk about, but it's a reality. Number two, Kansas City has a very high crime rate. The crime rate is much higher in Kansas City than a lot of other major cities around the country, especially per capita. Kansas City has a very high crime rate, particularly in certain neighborhoods. So you want to research certain neighborhoods to kind of really stay out of, or specifically stay out of when it comes to getting at night. It's not a place that I personally want to be at, not a place that I want my family at, certain areas around it, especially when the sun sets. So you definitely want to make sure you research those areas. Specifically, a lot of those areas just so happen to be in Kansas City proper. The beautiful thing is that if you do live, for instance, like in a suburb area, or you live in other areas around Kansas City proper as well, that crime rate is relatively much lower, like drastically lower, versus if you're living in some of those high crime rate areas in Kansas City. So crime rate is a little, I'm not going to say a little, it's pretty high, and it's unfortunate. However, it is something that the city has been working on with the community and with the police department, and just trying to figure out that whole thing. And there's a lot of also another initiatives that's going on in Kansas City to help reduce that crime rate as well too. But that is something to know when you're located in Kansas City. Certain areas to kind of stay away from, certain areas to stay not, you probably just don't want to be in that area. Just probably want to stay away. Number 3 on the list, Kansas City's public transportation. I don't know how to say this, but Kansas City's public transportation sucks. Well, I'm not going to say it sucks, but it could be a lot better. So, meaning that if you go to a lot of other major cities around the country, their public transportation seems to be a lot bit better. Kansas City's public transportation specifically is really just the bus system. It's not the best. It doesn't go to a lot of places. So if you live further out from the city, trying to get into the city to attend events or to go to work, whatever it may be, it could be a lot harder. So Kansas City is one of those cities where you have to have, or it's best to have, your own transportation, be it your own vehicle, car, etc., carpool, whatever that may be. But you definitely want to make sure that you probably have a vehicle when you come to Kansas City, because public transportation isn't the best. Now, I can say this. Kansas City is actually the only major city that offers free public transportation when it comes to their, they have a transit that runs throughout, like, it really is kind of more so like in the highlight of some of the major areas, like the country club, like it will go to the country club plaza, but right now it goes down like the downtown area to the city market, and you can really just hop on, and it's completely free. It's pretty cool to do, especially like if you have some things that you want to do downtown or etc., some major events or whatever's going on in the city, and parking may be a little hard to find. It's cool that you could maybe park your car somewhere like the Union Station or somewhere nearby, hop on one of those transits and trains, and it'll take you where you need to go. So that's pretty cool. The only thing is that it just doesn't go as far as we like it. But the beautiful thing about that is they're actually extending it. So there's a lot of construction going on as well in the city, which sometimes is a bad thing because, who likes a lot of construction when, you got to maneuver around. But the beauty of the construction is the city is growing massively. There's a lot of good things that's happening in the city, including the public transportation. So they are trying to improve some things. But as of right now, public transportation isn't the best thing happening in Kansas City. Number 4 on the list, Kansas City has a much higher sales tax in this city than a lot of other major cities. So if you're looking to purchase anything in the city, goods, services, things like that, which we all do, Kansas City has a very high sales tax when it relates to a lot of other places. So you're looking at about 10.8% sales tax. So anytime you're purchasing something, just know that the sales tax is a little bit higher in Kansas City than your normal other cities around the country. So that is one of the drawbacks also living in Kansas City as well too. So you may want to think about that as well too. So count your coins, stack your coins up, but the beauty of it is that the city overall is a very affordable city. Number 5 on the list. Well, this one is for all parents that are out there. If you're a parent, you have children, well, this one pay special attention to this one. Kansas City School District. The Kansas City School District has had its multiple challenges throughout the years, from superintendents quitting and things like that. And the reality is that Kansas City School District is struggling. They have had their accreditation taken away. Luckily, they just received that back now. But the Kansas City School District itself is, unfortunately, I would probably say it's subpar. You know, that definitely has a lot of work to do. And I know education is very, very, very important. So if you're residing in the Kansas City area, you definitely have to take account of that. Now, what a lot of people seem to do, specifically they live in the Kansas City area, especially if you have the means to do it, they have some of the best private schools in the area, Kansas City. And specifically also if you live in the surrounding area of Kansas City, some of the suburbs area, places like Overland Park or Olathe or Lee Summit or Blue Springs or Kansas City North, any of those places like that, the school district around those areas are absolutely one of some of the best school districts in all of the country. If you go to a lot of different websites like niche.com, etc., you'll see some of the ratings of those school districts, and frankly, some of those school districts actually have an A+ rating. So like if you look into like Blue Valley School District or Lee Summit School District or Blue Springs School District, etc., has some of the best rating school districts in all of the state, let alone the country. So if you're looking to move around the suburb area, school districts are absolutely off the chain. They're phenomenal, they're great. But if you're looking to live in Kansas City proper, you gotta be mindful that the city of Kansas City School District is, it's not the best, unfortunately. It's not the best, unfortunately. But hey, hopefully they're working on it. I know they're working on it, but hopefully it'll get better over time. But just kind of think about that when you're thinking about moving in or living in Kansas City proper, that you probably want to make sure that you probably pick a school district that is best for your children, kind of beyond maybe Kansas City School District. Kind of hate to say. Number 6 on the list, Kansas City experiences, they spend high traffic areas. They do get some traffic. Now I would say this, that if you've been to other places around the country, not to name some cities, but the reality is that the traffic in a lot of other major cities is much, much worse. So if you're a traveler like myself, you like to travel and you're attending some of those other different cities, Kansas City's traffic is relatively much lighter than those cities. But hey, if you're coming from somewhere else that's much smaller than Kansas City roughly metropolitan area is around about 2.4-ish million, the metropolitan area. So if you come from a city that's much smaller than Kansas City, you come here in KC, yeah, you're going to complain a little about the traffic because traffic does kind of get a little back up, you know, certain times of the area, like I-35 if you're traveling, if you're going south during rush hour, if you're going north, you know, in the morning, or if you on 435 going west in the morning, you know, going towards Kansas, 435 east going back to Missouri, and 4 or 5 p.m. You know, so you're going to have a lot of those different times of it, just like any city. But so you have to just kind of plan your trip accordingly, you know. But for the most part, Kansas City's traffic isn't that bad. If you're coming from another city that is relatively the same size or even bigger than Kansas City, then you know it's kind of is what it is. But if you're coming from a city that's smaller than Kansas City, just be aware Kansas City's traffic can be a little congested at times, so just kind of plan accordingly. Number 7 on the list, Kansas City has relatively speaking, has a very low walkability rate compared to a lot of other cities around the country. Meaning that if you're a person who likes to walk, you know, like from your home to your office and to your gym and things like, or ride a bike, Kansas City, it's not the best place for that, unfortunately. A lot of times, as we kind of mentioned before, you typically have to ride your car, ride a vehicle to get from place A to B, etc. Now, there are a ton of walking trails, there are a ton of bike trails, things like that. So by all means, definitely use those trails. And Kansas City has a lot of them in the surrounding areas. But when it comes to walkability, of like being pedestrian friendly, Kansas City doesn't have high marks when it comes to that. So a lot of places unless you're living like maybe like downtown Kansas City, where you can live in a loft or a condo and you can walk down and get in the elevator. You can walk to a Constantino's grocery store, grab your bags, and then you can, go back home or walk to the gym and things like that. Other than that, like unless you like live like in a downtown area, like if you live like in a suburb area, you definitely will want to make sure you have a vehicle because the walkability isn't the best. Now walking around the neighborhood, riding your bike around the neighborhood, by all means, definitely do that. And you see plenty of people doing that, walking their dogs, etc. We have tons of parks as well. Feel free to do it. But if you're trying to like walk to work, let's just say that's going to be very hard to do. Number 8 on the list. How do I say this? Well, the fact of the matter is that Kansas City is a premier city, but Kansas City also has its history, like a lot of other cities, I should say, as well too, has their own history. But Kansas City does have a history with racial segregation as well too. Kansas City has come a far, far way, or I should say a long way, from the way things used to be, like if you study the city. But there's still some division, when it comes to racial demographics. Certain areas, like there's a street called Truce. And Truce has been for a long time considered to be a invisible dividing line. It has been a dividing line typically between, blacks, whites, or Hispanics. Also, when it comes to the haves and the have-nots. So if you look on the west side of town of Kansas City, there is much more developed. The cost of living, I should say not cost of living, but the cost of houses are much higher. If you look in those areas, things are kept up well. You'll find Whole Foods, you'll find all those beautiful, restaurants and things like that you're looking for in grocery stores, etc. But when you start going to the east side of town in Kansas City, unfortunately, it's those are the same areas that we talked about earlier about more of a high crime rate. You'll find lack of amenities. You find lack of job opportunities. You see the housing being more dilapidated. You'll find, higher crime rate. You'll find all these different things, unfortunately. And a lot of it has to do with, segregation as well, too, from a racial standpoint as well, too. So, again, the city has done major strides when it comes to improving that over the years. So you'll see a lot more integration, a lot more things that have occurred, throughout the years. Much more diverse. I can remember like growing up, and you'll still see like certain areas that only have like Hispanics, or only have Somalians, or African Americans, or Caucasians, etc. But now it's so much more diverse. Now you still have that for sure, unfortunately, but you're starting to see a much more diverse community. Kansas City, I want to say, Kansas City, the citizens here in Kansas City speak over 100 different languages. So it's showing you the diversity that's happening in Kansas City. The more and more now that you meet someone in Kansas City, you'll find more people who are transits that actually who are from other areas that actually moved to Kansas City, versus when I was growing up, it was very hard to meet somebody who wasn't from Kansas City. Now you're finding a lot of people who are from a lot of other areas like California, from New York, from Florida, moving right here to the heartland of Kansas City, Texas, etc. So a lot more people moving to Kansas City, which makes it much more diverse when it comes to ethnicity, when it comes to religion, when it comes to social classes and things like that. So though Kansas City has a history of segregation, it's getting much better. We still have a ways to go. And I think with your help, we're going to definitely make strides to make it even better moving forward. Number 9 is something that I had experienced a lot, and frankly, I still experience it a lot. When it comes to Kansas City, the springtime, I love it. It's very beautiful. However, there is so much pollen that gets in the air. My allergies are off the chain, right? I'm always sneezing. So if you got allergy problems and things like that, trust me, you're going to make sure that you want to have some allergy medicine, because in the springtime, with the all the pollen that's in the air and things like that, you itchy, watery eyes, you're sneezing and things like that. You definitely want to make sure that you look out, because again, Kansas City's pollen gets very high. The air pollution also Kansas City sometimes isn't the best. It's not something like, unfortunately, like LA or something like that. However, air pollution can be a lot better, but because you got so many cars on the road, because again, it goes back to public transportation. Public transportation isn't the best, so you have much more people driving in this city versus a lot of other major cities because the public transportation isn't ideal. So, which means that you're gonna have much more air pollution and things like that. So, but all in all, it isn't as bad as it is, like I said, in a place like LA. And all my LA friends, I absolutely love you. LA is one of my favorite places to visit. So, but Kansas City's air pollution could be much better. And again, if you're like me and you have allergies, let's just say I'm gonna pray for you. Yeah, I'll pray for you. Number 10 on the list goes back really to number 1 that I had on the list. Kansas City is located in an area of the country that is known as Tornado Alley. Now, do you guys remember? You remember a film, a movie a long time ago, but a lady once said she had a dog and she said, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. You guys remember that? Well, that's because that was located in Kansas. Though Kansas is our next door neighbor, Missouri, it's all in the same metropolitan area. But we sit in Tornado Alley. So again, as I talked to you about before, when I was a youngster, we had to do tornado drills and things like that. Well, one of the things you want to make sure that you also have, if you're going to be living here in Kansas City, just have a plan. Have a plan for weather, have a plan. Now, personally, fortunately, I've been living in Kansas City, for pretty much majority of my life. I went away for college, came back, things like that. However, I've never had to experience directly a tornado, which is great. Fingers crossed that it'll stay that way. But you definitely want to make sure that you plan for that. So meaning to say that there's always been a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado watches, things like that. But I've never had to experience like something actually coming down in the area where I lived at. So, but you want to plan for it. Plan for yourself or your family. So you want to make sure that you have some type of designated shelter house or something like that. A lot of houses here in the Kansas City area have basements. And the cool thing about it now in this day and time is that a lot of the basements have been turned to like what we would say like a man cave, so a whole nother place to be able to be at and to have fun at, watch your movies and games and all these different things. So that is the beauty about, maybe Kansas City is that we have basements, right? I know places like California can't have it because of earthquakes. But you definitely want to make sure that you look out for that because, again, you'd rather be safe than sorry. So make sure that you have designated place when it comes to tornadoes. Have a basement or have some type of shelter so to protect you and for your family. But if you can deal with these 10 things, then trust me, Kansas City is probably a city that should be on the top of your list. If you can deal with the high traffic at times, if you can deal with, some of the pollen getting out of control, even crime rates, again, stay out of some of those areas, But if you can deal with some of those things, then Kansas City has been one of the best cities. I've traveled all around the country. I have lived in different cities. I personally love Kansas City. I love the growth that's happening in Kansas City. I love the diversity that's happening in Kansas City. I love the wonderful things that are happening in Kansas City. Kansas City is truly turning into a world-class city. They have a mantra of the new Midwest. So Kansas City is a premier city. A lot of job growth, a lot of job opportunity, a lot of major corporations are coming to Kansas City, have came to Kansas City. It's known for so many different things, whether you're in tech or whether you're in the health field or whether you're in auto industry, it doesn't matter. Kansas City is an amazing place to live. So I hope you ladies and gentlemen enjoyed this segment of living in Kansas City, lifestyle right here in Kansas City. Again, we're going to give you the good, we're going to give you the bad, and we're going to give you the ugly. So again, folks, remember, if you are looking to move to Kansas City, feel free to reach out. Just think of me as like your personal tour guide or your personal concierge. Now, I'd love to be able to kind of show you more about Kansas City. Feel free to watch other videos that we also have posted up, so that way you can kind of get a good just feel if Kansas City is a good city for you and for your family. So again, folks, if you're looking to move this area, whether you're looking to move, whether it's 10 days from now or 100 days from now, hey, reach out to me, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, and I'll be happy to help you make that smooth move right here in Kansas City. And until next time, folks, well, I look forward to seeing you around town.